Laura.
Hey, Emma.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So what's on your mind?
Well, I want to talk to you about something really special.
What's that?
Don't
Don't cry. Be strong.
Well, after your last video from the Holocaust survivor where you made that challah bread,
Yes.
I really wanted you to teach me how to make it.
Okay. I will teach you my favorite recipe. So, and when I made that, it was just really special, and I had to stop talking a few times because it would make me cry. Because reaching back into tradition and pulling that forward is an emotional thing. So, what would you like to make? See if your favorite is my favorite.
The one with almond paste.
Almond paste. That's delicious.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. It's a very sweet challah. Well, it's almost Rosh Hashanah, so why don't we make a round one?
Sounds great.
Yes? All right, let's make it. I always have so much to say, but whenever the camera's rolling, I just bleh. Okay, we've composed ourselves. We had a little talk about the Holocaust and traditions, and so now we're going to be strong and move forward. So I'm going to bring in all the ingredients. We've gotten started. This is almond extract. We've gotten started on bringing out everything we're going to need. I'm going to bring them to the counter, and so what do you hope to do with this recipe? If I pass it on to you, what are you going to do? I'm going to get the stuff.
I'm going to become the next challah queen.
The next challah queen.
So tradition in our family is when we have Shabbat dinner, my mom always makes her own challah. And like any other favorite recipe and traditions, it always gets passed down, whether it's Thanksgiving or Passover or I don't know, what are other traditions?
Well, we do Shabbats weekly. We do Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. We eat a little after Yom Kippur because we're all pretty hungry. And then Sukkot, we have a celebration.
Yeah.
Simchat Torah at the end of Sukkot, we have a celebration. Hanukkah, that's pretty big around here. We have a lot of different things at Hanukkah. And then we have the spring feast. We have lamb, of course, for Passover. And so I think this year you need to maybe make the lamb.
I make really good lamb though.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
You need to be sharing. So bring your lamb over.
But I think the tradition of that is important.
It is important. It is important
because you have always been in the hierarchy, the one who makes always the best challah. It's always everybody comes to you for your recipe, and that's what I want to be.
Okay,
the best.
Well, I think it's important because your daughter, who's now in college, will want to carry on the traditions that you set for her. I think traditions are made in the home by the mother. And if the mother doesn't do it, then, it just doesn't get passed down.
Yeah.
If everything is ordered in or someone else is preparing your food, there's never a chance for the next generation to learn how to do it. You can hear about it, but you don't know how to do it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to make the best challah that I have in my recipe catalog. So anyway, all right. So we'll get started here.
We're back, and we have our super cute aprons.
Yeah, you have to have a cute apron to make challah. It's a thing. This apron was given to me by my wonderful granddaughter, which is your daughter. So it's like she's here with us. So, so let's not cry again. Oh my gosh, the girls in college and we're all alone. But anyway, so we have our aprons on, and all right, so here's what we have assembled. We have sliced almonds. We have our huge bag of flour. We have avocado oil, almond extract, almond paste. This is what we're gonna stuff our challah with because we're making almond stuffed challah. And then what else have we got? Oh, our yeast and our eggs, our sugar.
Oh, and the recipe?
And the salt.
Oh.
The salt. And
like
the
this.
towel that's gonna go over top. And the recipe. So, or did I say towel recipe or towel recipe?
As long as you have them both, I don't care what you
have
call
them
it.
both?
We got them both.
You wouldn't have any idea how, we have our French whip, our paintbrush, our measuring spoon. So this is a tablespoon measure and a teaspoon measure. And I use both these for this recipe. And a cup. You know what we need? We need a glass cup.
Oh.
So the first thing that we're going to do is start off with heating some water in our glass pot. If you're not ready to have that, you can put it back there.
I don't know if I am or not, Mom.
You don't
I've
know?
never made this before.
Okay, so go over, we have a water filter, so go over and get 1 cup of water.
You got it?
So this recipe calls for 1 cup of water and 2 packets or 2 teaspoons, yes, of yeast. I always make it, and it says to heat that to about 100 or 110, but put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. And then if it feels warm, it's better. So it's better to have water that's on the cool side than to have it on the hot side. If you make it too hot, you'll kill your yeast, and you need live, nice live yeast. Got it?
Yep.
So you can kind of defeat yourself from the very beginning. So make sure you have that. So we're gonna have two of these. We're gonna have a cup of water, which Erica is heating. Ideal is 110 degrees. So Yara has the water heating in the microwave. We're gonna do 30 seconds, but so that you know for your own notes, 110 is about perfect. 100 to 110. I wouldn't go, yeah, I can feel that. Feel that. Does that feel like warm and snuggly?
Oh, it does.
But it doesn't, but not hot.
Not like it came out of the dryer.
No, not that hot. So it just feels kind of warm and lovely. So we are going, you know what, we need scissors. I forget to bring those out. So you'll cut these open. You can fold it this way and cut both at one time. So as Yara is working on this, we'll move on. So we put 2 of those in our water, and then we mix it up, mixy. And then we're going to put, in my recipe for challah, I use 2 tablespoons of sugar in this mixture. And then, and I add more sugar to the batter, because this is a sweet bread. It's not, you can have this with dinner, so it's not terribly sweet.
Is it supposed to clump like that?
It does clump like that.
Okay.
That's the yeast. And yeast are live organisms. And the sugar, they're gonna eat the sugar. They're gonna give off gas. And that's what makes your bread rise. Lovely fact, huh? All right, so get that little clump over there on the side. There, just mix that down. All right, so that's all you need to do. So while Yara has expertly mixed that, ta-da, we're gonna cover it. We're gonna cover it, and just let it set.
How long do you let it set for?
You can let that set for 10 or 15 minutes, or like 12 is almost perfect. So we'll just leave that there. You can put that right on the counter because we're going to be using that again. There's a towel at the end of the counter hanging on the hook. I put all my trash right in the sink.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, and then whenever I clean everything up, I can just grab everything out of there, clean it up, throw it away, dry it, and then we dry this off because the next time we use that is going to be in the bowl of flour, which we're gonna switch to right now. So if you'll grab your bowl, we'll make, all right, perfect. All right, so when I first started making challah a long time ago, it wasn't coming out very beautiful, not at all, or flavorful. So then I decided I was going to go very direct, or very scientific with the ingredients. So I found out that I could use 20 to 22 ounces of flour.
Really?
Yes.
That seems like a lot.
It is kind of a lot because we're going to make with a family, you make a big challah. You can actually cut this recipe in half and then you would make 2. So if you have 22 ounces of flour, after all the ingredients, you would have 2 1-pound loaves. A regular loaf of bread in the grocery store is 16 ounces, 1 pound. So this would make 2 loaves, which is really good. That way you can give a loaf to your neighbor and keep a loaf. But we're going to use the whole thing today. So instead of measuring that out, I'm going to show you how to do this. This is kind of a thing. This is another new bag of flour. This is a really big one. So I fluff it a little. So that comes out to about 4.5 cups of flour. I fluff it in here. You could sift it and fluff it. Don't get that. But I don't. So I get a cup of flour. This is my method of a new bag of flour. See how I have probably just a little gap there? That keeps me from getting too much flour. So I'm going to still count out 4 cups of flour, and then I'm going to have the half cup in reserve.
Oh, I see.
That's my method. Other people have different methods, like actually sifting and measuring their flour correctly. This is the way I do it. All right, so every cup, same thing, little gap there. And so I'm going to get a little more than a half a cup because I'm going to also use some for putting on the counter.
So we put 4 cups in here.
Right.
You got a little more than a half a cup.
Right.
In reserve.
In case this batter is too wet,
okay,
we're gonna want to add more flour to it.
Okay.
And so you're going to now put in 2 teaspoons of salt into
teaspoon. Okay.
That's the teaspoon. Yeah, put in 2 pretty level teaspoons. And if you go a little over, it's not that big of a deal because if you get a little bit too too much salt, the bread is just a little saltier. No, that's okay. You just throw it all in. Okay.
I think that's good luck.
You watch too much TV.
Maybe it goes over your right shoulder.
I don't know, but don't throw it over your right shoulder because that's where I'm at. Okay, so we have that in. I used to use 4 tablespoons of Vital wheat gluten. And that would make it really...
Oh, I remember that.
Remember that?
Thick and like...
Yeah.
It was like rope.
Elasticy.
It was really neat.
But I don't do that anymore because you have a gluten sensitivity. So I just don't do it. I gave that up.
It was really good,
if you want to experience it, you can buy Vital wheat gluten on Amazon and give it a try, which I would use 4 tablespoons if I did. All right, so if you're probably wondering,
I didn't set a timer for this.
You didn't set a timer, and you don't have to.
Okay.
Because once we get everything together, you can see if your yeast is proofed or not. Meaning that your yeast has risen a considerable amount. So this is really, really great yeast. A good amount of sugar helps it to, do what it does. And
so like beer, you want it to have that thick head on it.
yes, you want to.
Not like beer.
You don't like beer, but you
guess
want a
if you
good
don't.
head on your yeast. Yeah. Anyway, so this is really good. If you had to let it sit, just let it sit for about 10 minutes. It would be good.
Okay.
But usually it takes you that long to get everything else going. You can look at it. If it's an inch or two up, then you know you've done it. You don't want to leave that sit too long, because if you leave it sitting, the bacteria is going to use up all that rising power, and it won't rise when you bake your bread. You'll get a little rise, but you won't get the beautiful bread.
Oh, I see.
All right, so
That makes sense.
So you have to, this is like the most delicate part, I think. So we have about 4 cups of flour in here. We have our salt.
2 tablespoons of
Teaspoon. 2 teaspoons of salt.
Tablespoons.
No tablespoons. 2 teaspoons and 2 packets of yeast are in here.
In there.
In there. So that's all the dry that we're gonna have here. Then, now that our yeast is pretty good, we'll move on to the oil. All right, so we'll take that off. And I have, let's see here. Oh, this is good. All right, so we're going to measure out a 1/4 cup of oil. But don't pour it in yet. Just measure. I have to get a glass.
Do you like avocado oil better than, I don't know what's in other recipes though. What does it usually call for?
A lot of people will use vegetable oil.
Okay.
But vegetable oil is very bad for you, and especially bad for your brain, and especially bad for growing children whose brains are developing. And we are really conscious of they are saying now that bad oils will actually even create Alzheimer's. So they're discovering a lot of new things about it. So I have 2 glasses here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the eggs. So
how many eggs?
So we're gonna put in 2 large eggs, which we will put into this cup. Just crack those, and see, don't they crack nicely on the edge of a glass? That's why I use the glass. Good. Clean.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is better than a bowl, isn't it?
It's much better. All right. Clean. All right. So now, do you know how to separate yolks from eggs?
I think this is a trick question.
It's not a trick question. Okay, so I use 2 eggs, and then I use the yolks from 2 eggs. 2 egg yolks. And so you just...
Oh, this is the thing where you like...
Ooh, I lost that one, yeah.
Do you know how to separate?
Sometimes I do. All right, so we're gonna put that in there. And then we're gonna do this again. If you're making a meringue, this is a great time to do it because you have all these egg yolks, or the egg whites.
That's really good.
Yeah, so you can save that.
A little extra sugar.
Or you can throw it into your next omelet or whatever. So we're not using this. We're gonna, yeah, I gotta put it over here. All right, so now we wash our hands, because after we get all this combined, we're going to be using our hands. So we'll wash up. This is going pretty fast, so
wow, that's high.
We're gonna need to use that, right? And yeah, so you know, we didn't put in the flour mixture is the sugar. We need to do that before we combine everything.
Oh, you said we were all done with dry stuff.
I thought so,
Okay.
but
Do you have another measuring cup?
not the sugar.
Are we gonna guesstimate?
No, we're not gonna guess. In the sugar, we're just going to use, hang on, 1/4 cup, which is this cup. So just grab a different cup.
Here's a half.
Half cup, and just use about half of that. Again, that doesn't have to be exact, because even if it's a little sweeter, in here.
I was showing the camera, Mom.
Oh, very good. And then you'll just whisk all of these things together. We have a camera above us.
Yeah, I put it there.
We're going to try to show you what things look like on the board and cut that in. So It may just have to be still pictures because
Yeah, but that would be neat.
yeah.
See what you're doing.
See what the Galloping Gourmet.
One thing to see this.
You don't know Galloping Gourmet, but Galloping Gourmet used to be on TV a long time ago when I was a kid, and they had a mirror up there, and they showed him in the mirror so you could see both.
Oh wow!
But that was back in the day before they had a lot of multiple cameras too. Grab a fork. We need to switch this up. And my fork drawer. Perfect.
Tables are already set when I come here.
That's true. All the work is done, and you walk in,
and then I get dinner.
We have a party, and then you walk out.
Yeah,
so
it's perfect.
Oh, you need to learn how to do these from start to finish. It's a thing. All right. So now
I got it on video now.
Yeah, you can just take that video out and do it. All right. So here you are. Actually, just throw that in the sink. You can. Oh, you have to stop beating. All right. So we're just gonna pour our eggs in here.
And I mix it.
Mix it up.
It's gonna get bigger or smaller?
Smaller.
Oh no.
We're gonna pour this in. All right.
Got a little bit of oil right there.
There you go.
I do the same exact thing at home.
What do you do?
I just throw all the stuff into my island sink, and then my sweet husband gets done and he's like, "Why do you throw all your garbage in here?" And I'm like, "I don't know, it makes sense to me."
It makes sense. You have a place to put it. And then you can come back later and clean it up, and it's not in your
I
way.
accidentally leave eggshells in there.
Well,
I don't come back.
you wouldn't if you didn't have anyone else to clean them out.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
It's
Did I
okay.
do too much?
No, just enough. You just need to do enough to mix it. All right, so this is almond extract, and we use about a teaspoon. That's good. It'll give that almond flavor to the rest of
I
your
like
bread.
a lot of almond though. That's
I do too.
why this is my favorite.
Okay.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is you're going to pour that into here.
All at once?
You can.
Do you want me to stir while I'm pouring,
You
or just
can.
what's the best way to do it?
The best way is just pour it in. Okay. Yeah, you don't have to stir too much. You want to get all that yeast that's hanging around the side. A lot of
that
it,
foamy
as
stuff?
much as you can. Yeah, the foamy. Perfect. Okay. And then you stir.
Got it.
All right. So it looks like we're probably going to need more flour, but keep going. Okay. How's it feeling?
Pretty tough.
Pretty tough? You're bringing a bread mixer machine right now. I know, they're noisy, aren't they? I'm going to put some of these, I'm just going to, like, a little handful of these into the dough. This is my almonds.
But those are
Almond slices.
almonds.
Almond
I already
slices.
want to eat it. It smells
All right.
fantastic.
Is it smelling good over there?
Can
Okay.
you smell it?
Ooh, that smells good. All right. Excellent.
You
All right.
think this is
Okay.
too
so
wet?
If I touch it, it sticks to my hand.
Oh yeah, no, that's
So,
gross.
yeah.
Ugh.
So we're gonna put more. Maybe a tablespoon and a half more.
Don't wear big rings while you do this because it kind of hurts your hand.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I normally don't wear rings when I knead bread because it.
Hi!
You got a nice color. So we are going to oil this pan. We're gonna put that oil. Okay, we're gonna oil the pan, and then we are going to let this.
Is
red
that
rice-
all you do with this flour over here?
That's all it is for. Yes.
Okay.
So remember, I started with like 2/3 of a cup,
Yeah.
and now we're down to just a little bit because you don't know how much you're going to need, so you have that extra on hand. If you don't guess it right the first time, you have it. So then we're gonna let that sit in here. I kind of roll it around so that all sides are coated with the oil. Go ahead, go ahead.
Just making sure.
Making it beautiful.
Perfect circle.
All right. Okay, perfect
I
circle.
thought you had it.
I didn't have it. All right, so I roll this around. See how that oil from the side of the bowl is getting on all sides? So, perfect. And then I have my tea towel. Oops. I'm going to get a tea towel because we're not going to use that one. So what we're going to do, we're going to wet it, we're going to cover it, and then we're going to give this time to rise.
You wet the towel.
I wet the towel to keep the dampness and the moisture in. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to put this in an oven, that I heat to 170 degrees. That's my lowest setting. And then as soon as it gets there, I turn it off. I leave the door open and I put this in. And that keeps it a warm place, but not hot,
Okay.
so that it can rise. And I give that an hour to rise. Okay, so I have my almond paste out of the box. I'm ready to roll it out. This is going to be a crown challah, so we're going to make 4 strands. And so very simply, I use my scraper to cut this into 4s. And then each one we're going to roll out and have that ready for when if your kitchen is really hot, your almond paste is going to be really sticky. So you can use your flour to kind of keep it workable. So you just roll it out. I have this tiny little rolling pin that I like to use for this. And you just keep rolling till you get it fairly long, because you want it to be mostly the whole length of your strand, braid. It's just
String.
braid. Braided strand.
Usually, how long do you make them, Mom?
Well, I'll tell you. Because we're not making if I made a 6-strand typical braided challah for Shabbat, I would make them about 18 inches,
Okay.
12, 14, something like that. But since I'm using that same amount of dough to make 1 challah that I would normally make 2, I make them 18 to 24 inches. And now I'm gonna roll this really tightly, because you're gonna want it to fit into the braid. You roll out your braid, and then you're gonna tuck this in. This is something you can't do with a pie filling. You have to kind of make a channel, put it in, and squeeze it up over. So this is actually prettier, but I think that tastes better. The problem is you just can't find it.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. All right, so I'm just gonna roll this, squeeze it out to get it as long as I can, and just keep squeezing, rolling. It's kind of like a really long Twizzler. Just keep squeezing, going one direction or going the other until you get it as long as you can. You can only do what you can do. But if you have it in the more length of the strand, you have it in more flavor in every bite. So that's kind of what we do. We want it kind of round because it'll just lay in the challah strand better. Okay. Oh, it takes forever. Okay, so we have 1. If you can guess how long that is, I don't know.
2 feet?
You think? Maybe. Maybe. So this is
18 inches? How long's your rolling pin?
I don't know.
That tall?
Never measured it. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna roll this out, and then we have an hour to wait until our bread has risen, and we can cut that dough into our 4 strands. dough is considered on the sweet side, and it has extra egg in it. So challah is an egg bread. Some people call it egg bread. Try my hands a little. So we put extra sugar in it. We put almonds. We crushed almonds. I don't know if you can see the flecks of almond in here. And then we have our ropes that we made of the challah paste. We made 4 ropes because we're going to have 4 braids. I have extra almond slivers that I'm not going to crush these up. We're going to just sprinkle them on the top, and they'll stick because we're going to be doing an egg wash. And okay, well, let's flour the surface. So you're going to reflour. You really, I don't know, you don't really have to do this reflouring, but since there's flour already here, we'll do it. The reason being, when we did the oil in the bowl, we have a little extra, so that would make oil on your counter. When you have oil on your counter, the dough doesn't stick. But the problem with the oil on the counter is when you're rolling it out, it makes it easier to spring back, which is not a problem because you have to let your dough rest. Whenever it comes out of the bowl, we let it rise. So we did that. I pushed it when I was bringing it out. It took some air out of it, so you didn't see as big as it was. So the goal is to cut this in half, and then half again, because we want 4 strands, because since it's Rosh Hashanah coming up, we want to have a crown for Rosh Hashanah. That's when we have a different style of bread. The rest of the year, we will have a braided challah. Okay, so we just kind of make some pretty little circles here, and then we form them into balls and let them set. And then the next one, we'll try to cut that right in half. So we have four sections, and you'll notice immediately you have some that are a little bit fatter, a little bigger than, see how that stretches. When you stretch it, you can feel that warmth in it. That means it has been rising, the yeast has been working, it's doing what it's supposed to do. We like to pull it out a little bit. You can actually do this by rolling it out. We're not going to get to the length. Look at the difference in lengths. I cannot get this dough that length and to keep it there. Because you see how it wants to spring back. It's like a rubber band. That's because of the gluten in the dough. And you just have to stretch it out a little. Stretch it out and let it rest. And then you'll be able to work with it. So we do this again through all 4. I like to kind of squeeze them. You get all the air out if you have an air bubble in there. Sometimes if you leave an air bubble in your bread and it ends up to be the surface part of the bread, it will, have a hole. It'll have a hole because it will break, and you've seen holes in bread before. And it gets really crispy because there's nothing under it, and then that one spot gets very crispy and it just kind of caves in. So we'll stretch these out and drop them, and you see how that shrinks back. This dough is not workable yet, so you will learn that. You'll just know what you're looking for. If I pulled this out and I did this and it stayed where it was when I dropped it, stayed there, I would know I'm okay. But see, it's shrinking up. So we have it nice and stretched and to where it will stretch right now. And then when we're after this next rise, which this is about 30 minutes. No, this is about 10 minutes. So we'll give this 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we will stretch it long enough and it will stay. And then we will put our strands, we have 4 strands of the almond paste into these strands, and it will work out perfectly. So we'll see you in 10 minutes, or for you in just a second. So the dough has had time to rest so that it can be stretchable and pliable. So we will just start our stuffing process. Okay, so we just take 1 strand, and you can feel that. If you were here, you could feel it too. So look, Yara, we are going to just stretch this out and make sure the length is pretty good. So that's just a little bit longer than the strands of almond paste. So let's just keep going. So we'll stretch these out, we'll roll them, try to make them a little prettier so that when we braid this challah, it will be fairly smooth and fairly good looking. But you can see how when I stretch these out, you know, they're more able to keep their shape. I feel a little hole here. I'm gonna pop that. So, and you'll feel, whenever you're feeling along these, you can feel the holes, the air holes, air pockets. So we'll stretch this, then we'll roll it. Yeah, so there's another one. So just pop that, and here we go. I should have started a little bit to the right because my sink is getting in the way here. So one more, we'll roll. I can feel it, pop it. Sometimes people will use skewers to pop. I don't. There's a stray piece of almond that the dough's already picked up. We'll stick that back in later in the right place. So yes, some people will skewer them. I just squeeze them. It's one less thing to clean or throw away, whatever you're gonna do with it. Then I just make a channel going straight down each strand, and that's where the almond paste is going to be. You would do the same thing if you used almond pie filling, but you have to stretch a little more to cover it. But I like the almond pie filling because when you stretch the dough over it, you know what I mean? It just spills out and it caramelizes, and it's really pretty. Okay, so here are our strands. I'll put that right in here. And it's okay at this point if they break, because it doesn't really matter. Just kind of squeeze that down a little bit. So you're pushing that into the dough, and then you're gonna pull this up and just squeeze it together. Squeeze all those holes together. It doesn't take that much longer to make a stuffed challah. You can make a savory challah too. Have you ever thought about that? Yeah, you can. You can put like something you've cooked ahead of time. You could cook mushrooms and saute mushrooms and onions together, or garlic, and put some basil in there. That'd be great. And just put it in and then seal it up, and then it cooks. And if you do it in garlic and olive oil, it will just ooze into your dough. That's really good too. We should do that too. We can make a savory challah, because this is a sweeter challah. So remember that those little pieces, I have some little pieces here that flecked off. When I get to the end of the dough, if my challah is much longer than the strands of almond paste, then I can stick them in. This is a really good place, because these strands of challah were really stretchable after we gave them time to just rest. So the first rise, you're trying to get your dough to rise. It's all about the dough rising. And then some people do a second rise. You can do that, but they punch it down, redo it, and do a second rise. But I don't. That may make a better bread, but to me it wasn't that much better. But when you separate the dough, that's not really a rising, that's a resting. You want the gluten to rest and relax in the bread. And once it does, you're able to stuff it. You can stuff it with anything. If you're not having meat or anything for dinner, you can stuff it with cheese. However you want to go. All right, one more. The reason I wrapped it in this cellophane, it takes a little while to roll it out, and I didn't want it to be too dry and brittle. So I just wrapped it long ways in cellophane. It's very simple to do. You just pull it out the length you need. Roll 1/2 on one side, 1/2 on the other. Yeah. You keep it more supple. See, this one is a little bit drier, so it's kind of falling apart. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Nothing's a big deal. All right. So never get stressed when you're making your challah. I know your first ones will be a little bit challenging because you're trying to remember the steps. But as long as you have the ingredients pretty close, everything else you do is gonna be okay. You know, people warn you, don't overwork your dough, don't do this, don't do that. But I think people tend to overwork their dough when they're nervous and they're trying to make it perfect. And you're not really going to be perfect at it. It's not actually a science. It's more of a craft. And when you make crafts, you can make something that's very beautiful and doesn't have to be like anybody else's. So then it is perfect. And people will look and say, wow, how did you do that? That's so incredible. But to you, it was nothing because you just did it step by step as you felt while you were doing it. So this making challah is the same way. But the most beautiful part is, remember that you're taking part in making bread and to honor celebrations that honor the Lord. That's what you're doing. You're honoring, you're keeping a tradition, you're passing it down. You are leaving a legacy for your children, and the most important thing to them is it's the way you did it. It doesn't have to be the way anyone else did it. It's the way you did it that's special to your children. All right, so we're gonna make our round crown challah for Rosh Hashanah dinner, which is coming up with our family, which is a very special occasion. And this goes great with honey, so it'll be a perfect bread for Rosh Hashanah. Also, what we're going to do is we're going to slice it and toast it, and then it just heightens the effect, and then you can put date honey on it. It's really incredible. So you can see these I know you asked me how long they were. They're probably 2 feet long, probably 2 feet. Because we had a good sized challah. We had about 5 cups total in that after we started with 4, but we continued until we had the rest of it in, which is it probably ended up to be about 5. All right, so I have the strand over, one of the strands going sideways, and then one going over, and it's actually going to hang over our counter a little bit. So I'm just going to curl it right there. This one, we're going to do the same thing. We want it to be fairly even, so we're going to put it under, just like that. So let's put these together. We'd like our center to rise a little bit. We're gonna leave, see, and sometimes you may have to go back and pinch. You might miss a place or the dough comes unpinched. So we're gonna go back and pinch. So we're gonna take the under and go over the strand on top. Take the under and go over. I like them a little closer together there so we can have a higher crown. Okay, and so this was under, and we'll go over there, and then under, and we'll go over. So once you get all the way back to where you began, you're going to go in the other direction because the strand on the bottom always goes over the one on the top. And this used to be a part of a separate pair, but you're gonna do it this way. Pull on a little bit tight. Okay. There we are. I'm trying to close up those holes. All right, and then this one will go over here. If you kind of hold it in place for just a second, it'll stay where you put it. All right, and then this one will go under this one. This will become part of this pair. Okay. And then this one, you don't want to pull too hard because you're going. If you do, you'll break it. But if you break it, stick it back together. No worries. No worries on challah. Okay. And then we're going to. You can use your finger to nudge to get it right where you want it. We'll leave it right there. Okay. We started here, so now we're going to go back in the opposite direction. That last strand I worked on, which was the top, well, now becomes the bottom. I'm going to pull that up tight so that it closes the gap. Don't keep going that way. Just drop it after you close that gap. Then this bottom is going to go over this top. And what happens is the braid is very tight here and it loosens up because the crosses of dough become farther and farther apart. That makes sense? Okay, so then the next one, we have the dough on top. So we're gonna go back this way. Actually, yeah, we're gonna go back this way. This is on the bottom, so it's gonna cross here. We'll just leave it like that, right there. This is on the bottom, so it's gonna cross here. Okay, and then we're going to start, going in the opposite direction. So you just kind of circle around until you get to a top, and then you circle back the other way. So we're gonna bring this bottom, bring this over, bring this tightly over that way. The strands, as you can see, kind of get farther and farther apart. And there, yeah. So just keep working it and you will get there. So now we've gotten to a top braid and a bottom braid. So we can go back this direction and then this direction, and then this one can go right here. Sometimes you have to kind of manipulate your dough a little bit. I know that that's gonna cross over and be fine. Okay, so we have an under and over and under and over. We're just constantly finding an under and an over. Okay, under, over. We're gonna start tucking these. I like to tuck them towards the middle. You're dome shaped. When you're dome shaped, you can keep that one button right in the middle. You're going to get it just right. Sometimes when you get towards the end, you can see that if my challah might be getting a little lopsided because all of the bread dough has just a little bit different weight to it, a little bit more thickness. You might see me amend my braid, and that is because I want it to be round. I want it to be symmetrical, and when you can see that, I could keep braiding exactly the same all around and end up with one side of my challah that's a little flatter, a little lower. So I just, I might switch directions. I might make a different type of braid. I might do a lot of things, but what I'm wanting is this to be high so that I'm gonna pinch these together. There's little places where you can see your braids unfold, but that's about it. Whatever you can do to keep that center high and the sides round. You just tuck and tuck and tuck, and you give that lift to this part. Not only is it a round challah, it's a crown challah. The crown challah and the coronation. I'm just going to mix this with my brush. It works just fine that way. So that's the point. All right, I'm going to grab my pan, which I have right here. I used to use parchment in my pan. First, I didn't use anything. I just greased my pan and floured it, and nightmare to clean. And then I used parchment, and so now I've just gone to Silpat, and I like it pretty well. It seems to cook the bottoms just fine. I don't seem to have any problem with it. I use my thing to help me pick this up. So I've got my challah, you can see, all the way around. Looks pretty even. All right, and the middle is nice and tight. So I'm going to paint it with my egg wash, and this is, as you can see, just an egg. Nothing, I didn't add water to this, I didn't do anything. Just the reason is it makes it nice and yellow, and you want egg bread to be eggy. So I just paint, and this we're gonna let rise for 30 minutes. And then we'll come back, probably, most likely, I always paint again, because when this rises, there will be a gap here with no egg wash on it. You want the egg wash on it. So we're gonna do it this way, and mostly keep it nice and moist while it's rising one more time. So we're gonna put the plastic wrap, if I can get it out of the drawer. We're gonna put the plastic wrap over this and just stick it over there and over here. This is gonna rise for half an hour, and this is going to actually help with how pretty the challah is going to be at the end. If you let it rise to the end, half an hour, I don't do this tight. I don't want to inhibit its growth, all right? So I did turn on the oven to 350 already, just for that to be ready. And I'm gonna put the challah just right on my oven. And it's warm. This is like warm. You always want to let your challah rise in the warmest part of your kitchen. In cold spots, it rises, but it just likes that warmth, but not heat, not hot. Can't really think of anything else that you need to know to make a successful challah. Once that's finished, we're gonna paint it again with our egg wash, which I'm gonna stick in the refrigerator. And then we're going to put these almonds on top, and they will stay where you drop them because of the egg wash. And then we can bake, and you'll see how it did. All right, well, again, it's gonna take us a while. It'll only take you, okay, so the bread has been rising for about an hour, a little over an hour. So here we have it. I'm going to paint the egg wash on it one more time, and that will get all the different areas that have grown since the bread was rising, since the last time that we painted it. We're going to add our egg wash on every little crack and crevice and cranny and crook and blah blah. Anyway, so we get it all on, we get it nice and covered, especially on the top. You want all the almonds to stick well and not fall over. And this is a good time too, if you see any little holes, you can pop them with your brush. I like to use a silicone brush instead of the natural fiber brush. I just feel like you can clean it, you can wash it with soap in the sink, and then you can stick it in your dishwasher and it does fine. So I like to use it. and it never picks up the color and stain. There's a hole of anything I'm using, so I like that. A long time ago when I used natural brushes, they would pick up the stain and they would be many different colors. So you don't like to look at that. There's a little spot. Okay, so I don't know if the camera picks that up, but that's very, very yellow because these are just really great eggs. They are cage free and all that good stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna just go from side to side. And sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. You have some that drop off and you can throw them on and use them all, because you don't want to cut a slice, or if people break it, whatever your tradition is. Some people only will break their challah with their hands. Some people will cut them and make them beautiful. So use all these almonds so that everybody gets almonds on their piece of almond challah. So that's it for this step. It's my favorite step. It's easiest, and you know what your challah is going to look like at this point. We're gonna pop this in the oven. It's gonna take about 30 or 35 minutes, and then we'll be finished with this portion of Rosh Hashanah's dinner. So we're getting there.
Thanks for showing me how to make the challah today, Mom.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I hope that you'll be able to share it with your daughter.
I can't believe how long it took.
It takes a while. It's a little bit of a process, but it's worth it.
Well, I mean, it's good to know that something like that takes almost 5 hours to make.
Kind of. Start to beginning, prep, clean up, the hour rising time, and then the half-hour rising time, and then a little more than a half-hour baking time, and then, yeah, it's a good part of your day.
That's why it tastes so much better than like getting it at the grocery store. But it gives me kind of a newfound appreciation because, growing up with the synagogue and everybody was always very, my recipe. It was because it was so much goes into their recipes.
Yeah, their recipes were important as part of their traditions, and they're filled with love. If you prepare a challah to take to an oneg, your synagogue meal, or to any feast day or anything else, if you show up with the challah and someone shows up with something else, you know what went into making that challah. So I think it's good to know. It's good to know, so you can make the next one.
And I'll make the best.
You'll make the best. Every challah you make is the best. Because you know what you like, you know what your family likes, and and you know what you put into it. So if you buy it, you'll never know.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. Well, it's like everything you make. If you make a kugel, you know how long it took you to do that. If you make challah, you know how long it took.
But when you're in like this modern day where you work 60 hours a week and you take the kids to daycare and you make quick dinner, thank goodness for air fryers now.
Yes, I agree.
But when you're talking about quick and fast and easy but healthy, and then you have to stop and make a challah.
Yes.
It's like,
it's an art.
it is an art. You have to sit there and you have to focus and what did I do next? What do I have to do? Making sure every step of it is perfect. It's
right.
A little bit more goes into it than I ever thought.
And you stand on the shoulders of the women who went before you. All the challahs that have been made since the Mishkan, the first temple. Imagine. That's a long legacy. So that's why things get lost in tradition, in history, is because it takes a lot of effort. But we can't let these things go.
It's wild.
It is. It's amazing. So after you now experienced it, how do you feel? Like,
I have a newfound appreciation for other people's challahs. But I might just pull it out on special occasions.
special occasions. Well, special challahs.
It's challah.
Special occasions deserve special challah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's for sure. So
It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Mom. I really
And
appreciate it.
you made a beautiful challah.
Whoop.
Whoop. So, thank you, Yara.
Thank you.
And I'll be seeing you in Rosh Hashanah
Couple days.
in a couple of days. Bye, everybody. I hope
Bye.
you have a wonderful New Year, and I hope your challah was beautiful.